Welcome, my YouTube friends. Sargon of Akkad has thoughts on simping. This should be good. Mr. Benjamin, take it away.
Let's talk about simping. Because I see a lot of men simping online and a lot of people dealing with men simping online, and it's just insufferable to watch. Let's begin at the beginning. Simping is king shit. Well, that's what an ethot would say, isn't it? I mean, notice the smile when this is being said. You know, like her...
Jesus, I forgot how slow he talks. Also, I have been convinced that the original meaning of... So, it depends on what you mean by simping. This is the problem, is that these right-wing chuds have taken simping and made it a completely meaningless insult word, like they did to cuck. It just means, like they did to soy boy, like they did to SJW. It just means, as they're fond of saying, someone I disagree with. However, it's entirely possible that Sargon is talking about simping in its original meaning, i.e., sucker idolizing mediocre pussy. Or penis. It can go either way. So in that context, it's usually used to refer to, and again, the context I'm guessing he's going to be talking about, because of course I haven't watched this yet. He's going to be referring to simping in the context of people being parasocial towards e-girls. Now, I do agree that there are a lot of people who have unhealthy parasocial relationships with these e-girls, with OnlyFans, with sex workers, what have you. With Twitch streamers who don't even show tits. They just, dress in a low-cut top and wear tight clothing. But that doesn't make simping, I think, inherently bad. It just, there are some simps who take it too far. And especially given the way the right has taken simp and made it completely meaningless, this should just be good.
Her income is reliant on you being a simp. That is, you working your job and then giving her money for appearing on a webcam. What are you paying for there? But this is not new. Women have expected...
Okay, you made it really broad, so it's a useless term again, Sargon. Good job. Paying someone for an OnlyFans or certain other, like, cam girl websites, whatever. Like, especially something like OnlyFans, where you are basically paying an artist, and I know there are some OnlyFans, I don't have the money for an OnlyFans, but I know that there are some OnlyFans that it's just the girl being naked. But that's fine. If there are people willing to pay you just to be naked in front of a camera, good for you. As long as you are, continuous, enthusiastic consent, hey, I'm all for it. I probably wouldn't pay for it, even if I had the money, but I support your desire to do that. So, you're lumping the people who have bad parasocial relationships with these women with just the people who pay for OnlyFans. It's a weird conflation there, Sargon. It's almost like you have a problem with sex workers.
Resources from men from the dawn of time, since day zero. However, this is usually reciprocal. The expectation is that the man would have the sexual monopoly over the woman's reproductive processes, and therefore, that's not an exploitative relationship. The man is providing something, the woman is providing something, both parties are happy. However, in the case of simping and ethos, well, you never get that payoff, do you? It's incredibly easy to fool men into thinking that this could be the case. There are expectations within masculinity. For example, the man is supposed to...
So... yeah, exactly. You wait until I get rich off of stocks before you delete no effort wealth? Yeah. But, Stuart, why do you hate the idea of people making millions from YouTube? The people who make millions from YouTube, I feel I can say this as someone who is making no money from YouTube but is still doing it. The people who make millions from YouTube work pretty hard. Like, you're looking at a 40 to 60 hour work week. Now, I do think some of them are still overpaid for how much they work, but that's the market we live in. These people could have lifted the nation in other areas, adding to global knowledge and pushing us to the next level. I think you overestimate the wealth of YouTubers. Like, even PewDiePie. Like, even PewDiePie is worth 40 million. He's the biggest single YouTuber on YouTube, and he's only worth about 40 million. Now, that's a lot, but I think people overestimate the effect of $40 million and what that could do to help society. And while it certainly can do a lot, and I think that wealthy people could do more, it would be more effective to lobby to expropriate their wealth through right. There are quite a few people who abuse the YouTube fame algorithm to gain an obscene amount of wealth. Yes, absolutely. But there's this idea, and part of the problem is that millions of dollars is enough to live incredibly comfortably, but in the scale of, you know, dirt broken in debt to Jeff Bezos, like, the majority of people are in the first 1% of that. So these people who make millions of dollars are still fabulously wealthy, but do not have anywhere near the influence of, like, a Zuckerberg or a Gates or a Bezos. I mean, sounds like you agree with me that capitalism is bad and that we should decommodify living, but unfortunately, this is the society we live in, and I mean, no one expects to walk out and make a 10 million subscriber YouTube channel, and by the time you have that audience, you're kind of pot committed to continue the content that made that audience. So if you didn't build that audience by making a politically conscious channel, then you have to, you know, stick with what makes you money. It's difficult to it's difficult to shift from a gaming YouTuber to a political advocacy YouTuber. And I only know one person who's successfully done it, and that's Xander Hall, and that's because he shifted when he had like 1,000 subscribers or something. He had like little to no following when he decided, I'm going to become a political streamer or a political YouTuber, and that's what the majority of his content is now.
Provide for his wife and family, and it's these that are being exploited. The ethos actually is so reliant on you feeling this way that there is an expectation on her part that you will want to satisfy her damsel in distress desires for money, because there are some men who love to serve women, and that is the reward for doing this, is her saying, thank you, you're my savior, etc., etc. Obviously, this is all confected, it's all an act. But don't be fooled by some of the more clever ethos. For example, the girl who's saying, I stalk all of your LinkedIn profiles. That was perceived by lots of people who are against simping to be some kind of creepy maneuver, but actually it's entirely to do with the parasocial relationship that is the simp and the ethos. That might sound creepy to someone who isn't a simp, but to a simp, that's music to their ears. Remember that she said, well, I notice a lot of you are engineers, men who are already in relationships and presumably want an attractive young mistress to spoil. This actually enhances the fantasy for them. The dream is that one day, the ethot might actually take notice of them. There'll be something special about the simp that the ethot will pick out and validate. I mean, they have disposable income, obviously, if a lot of them are indeed engineers. This is a hobby for them. They feel invested.
So I think one issue here is that this is an issue not with ethos or OnlyFans or anything like that. This is an issue with parasocial relationships. It doesn't have to be a woman taking off her clothes for people to spend ridiculous amounts of money trying to get acceptance and validation from big streamers or content creators of any kind. I mean, anyone who's been in a community and the streamer or video maker or what have you calls you out by name, either because of a donation or whatever, you get a little thrill. It feels good. And there are some people who either they're so lonely in their real life or they have other issues, what have you, that they seek that to an unhealthy degree. It doesn't have to be women taking their clothes off for people to create unhealthy parasocial attachments. You're just moralizing about a particular brand of that and ignoring the way that content creation kind of creates avenues for those kind of unhealthy relationships. And the way many incentive structures are set up sort of incentivizes people to promote those kind of parasocial relationships.
And the ethos is making them feel that they're one step close to the goal. Again, making them feel that this is not just a one-sided relationship, that the ethos actually does care about those people, even though they clearly don't. So put simply, simping is not respectable. It is a vice. The desire to experience a feeling of importance to an attractive young woman through a quasi-romantic...
See, vice makes it seem like it's a moral failing on the part of the person, when it's often just you're so lonely or you feel like such a worthless person, or because simping is often a result of that kind of mental state. Not always, and especially in the way I've seen simping used a lot, like with the okay boomer girl, which judging by the thumbnail he'll probably talk about, Nico Lol, because she's one who that TikTok went viral. Her like 10,000 follower Twitter account went to 150,000. And then it came out she had a boyfriend and she got suspended. So this is applying a moral failing to simping, that it is somehow morally bad and not just the result of a bad situation the person was in. Like, simping is not a vice. It is a dismissive description of a behavior that could represent a bad situation that needs therapy or some other intervention, but it is not a vice. But of course, in Sargon's worldview, anything that is a result of a mental issue is a personal moral failing, and you are bad for it. So,
virtual courtship, it's entirely one-sided. It's simulated by the ethos to play into the fantasy that the simp has. The simp is indeed getting what he pays for, but I mean, at the end of the day, is that necessarily a guarantee of fairness? Just because you're getting what you pay for doesn't mean that you're not being exploited. The ability to serve ethos with his labour is what he's paying for, which is weird, isn't it? You would think that people would have a bit more self-respect from that. But throwing cash at the ethos has no particular effect on her behaviour, other than to...
I mean, so from what I understand with a lot of these OnlyFans, they release some decent quality video with like social interaction. Like that's where the parasocial thing comes from. Like, it's either a live stream where they're actively talking to you and they just happen to be naked. I do know a number of OnlyFans are lewd cosplay. So you could just be getting photos, or I imagine that would be more behind the scenes, how it's constructed type stuff, since it's behind a paywall. But the people who buy these things, is that really any worse than like buying a subscription to a streamer, or donating to a streamer, or buying a video game from an indie developer, or, you know, anything like that? Again, particularly in the case of OnlyFans, you're talking about a service that lets you deliver compensation directly to the artist. Like Patreon before it, it lets people who didn't necessarily do well with the YouTube algorithm make money off of their art on YouTube because it was a direct source for people who directly wanted to support their work.
Continue to incentivize it. The simp will never achieve the goal of a date. And I'm sure that you've seen that there's a huge percentage of the simp audience that seem to be interested in that. I mean, the OK Boomer Girl,
I don't know what you mean by simp, because you literally conflated simp with anyone who subscribes to an OnlyFans. And again, subscribing to an OnlyFans could just be, I want to support this person's art. It doesn't have to be that in seeking a parasocial relationship. Like, just because some people do that doesn't mean all of them are. But by conflating those two groups of people, multivariate groups of people, you are now condemning people who are doing this just for love of art. Slippery, Sargon, you gotta be careful with your words there.
Well, who gained like 100,000 or 200,000 followers overnight, and then lost half of that as soon as it came out to be revealed that she had a boyfriend, just shows you what a huge percentage of the simp audience is actually interested in. And it's not going to happen. Let's be clear about this, Simps. I know that you might have these delusions in your mind that maybe you could be the one that she notices and picks out of the crowd and validates and marries, and you can provide for her, and then she won't need to be a thought or whatever it is you dream of. But it's not going to happen. She doesn't care about you. She doesn't know you, because fundamentally, ethots do not date simps. Simps are the followers of ethot leaders. Women are hypergamous. They date upwards.
Oh god, the hypergamy bullshit. Here we go.
Women do not want to date one of their own followers. That's actually what men want. Women do not want to be the provider for an inferior person in the relationship. They want someone to provide for them. And
I mean, there are definitely women who want to be that in a relationship. It's a little presumptuous of you, Carl, to assume that no woman wants to do that. Just like it's presumptuous of you to assume that no man wants to be the submissive in a relationship. There's all kinds. And what most people want is an equal relationship, but, well, probably not most people. But a lot of people want an equal relationship, but there's no room for that in your model. Why is that, Carl? Strange.
And they're exploiting this natural desire in men to provide for women to farm simps on a massive scale. Ethots are to simps as farmers are to cows. The ethot will milk the cow, but does not care about the cow. They use basic carrot and stick techniques as well, the carrot being the privilege of looking at and possibly being noticed by the ethot, even if it's just, oh, thank you, Mark, I really appreciate that, you've saved me from destitution, aren't you a good white knight? And the stick is in the ethot saying things like, I'm not doing anything until I get X number of subscribers. I'm sure you've seen plenty of clips of entitled ethots doing exactly that. Men who do not have self-possession and are instead
Bitch, that's just a product of social media. I remember fanfic authors being like, I appreciate the support on my last chapter, and the next chapter is ready to go, but I can't put it up till I get 100 likes on this chapter. And like, that shit was cringe back then, and it's cringe now. But it's not simps that do that, it's just people who will do anything to get validation from people they view on a higher pedestal. This is why we need to smash the hierarchy.
Following their impulses and appetites will be influenced in this way. They will go along with this. Men who do have self-possession and will refrain from following these appetites will not be sucked in by this. Because fundamentally, simping is to dating what masturbation is to sex. It doesn't get you any closer to the ideal goal. It does, however, simulate the same feeling of accomplishment. And you will see a lot of simp comments that go like, I donated X, do you want to go on a date? No, they do not want to go on a date. You will never get that date. You will never have sex with that woman. It is a lack of self-control on your part that is being exploited by the attractive woman who realizes she can, from the comfort of her own bedroom, after having done zero in the way of effort, extract money from you, and if you give...
You don't know that it was zero in the way of effort. Again, a lot of these OnlyFans put a lot of work and effort into the product they put out on OnlyFans. Yes, there are a number that are just them getting naked in front of a webcam. But again, you're conflating multiple groups of people to try to condemn this, to try to morally condemn this action, which is pretty harmless, except when it gets parasocial. Yeah.
Give her that money, then you are a fool. And if you give them that, then you are voluntarily giving not just your manual labor, which you had to perform to get the money that you're giving them, but also the emotional labor, the emotional outreach that is being exploited there. That's something that should be referred to a woman, that should be reserved for a woman who actually loves you in return, not the simulated ethot relationship you're getting via the internet. she doesn't.
I mean, again, yes, a lot of people have these dangerous parasocial relationships. The issue is not the e-thought. The e-thought is responding to a demand. The issue is the society, which creates this loneliness and lack of access to healthcare, so these people go uninspected and without therapy.
Love you in return. She doesn't care about you in return, even if she simulates as such. Put simply, simps are serfs. Simping is a voluntary form of serfdom, forever doomed to have blue balls, chasing a fantasy that is definitionally out of reach, and something that an ethos can simply feign in order to make it look to hundreds of thousands, millions perhaps of simps, make it look like she is interested in that individual simp, purely because of the magic of technology. Usually this had to be done on a one-on-one basis, and before social media became a big thing, I can remember male friends of mine who would, for example, I used to work with a guy, really nice guy, not very successful with women, and then when a woman was in the office, there was one woman who would take advantage of him by getting him to drive her everywhere. He never had sex with her. He never had a relationship with her. He did spend his money on her. He did spend his, the money on the car and on the petrol and his time and emotional investment in her. And she just took him for a ride while she was dating all of these other guys.
So while there are definitely women out there who do that, there are also men who do that. And it could be that they had a rich, fulfilling friendship outside of work that you knew nothing about. Do you know the exact dynamics of their relationship? I mean, yeah, it definitely sounds like he got taken for a ride and got taken advantage of. But that's not really his fault. That's the society we grew up in. Like, guys some guys are trained to be complete douchebags, and that gets them far in life. And some people are taught to be gentlemen, and then they get walked all over. There's a fine line between there that is probably a little bit healthier, but it's all situation dependent.
Same thing. It's almost like a form of enchantment. It's a very cruel trick that nature plays on young men and fills their head with hormones and makes them think that if they just do X, Y, and Z, if they achieve certain behaviors and accomplishments on a particular path, then they'll get to the end, but there is no way for this path to get you to your end goal. Fundamentally, it's because you will never be treated with dignity. When someone is exploiting you, when someone is taking advantage of you, they do not respect you. And an ethot is never going to date someone that she doesn't respect. You will never become the object of the ethot's attentions. It is all an act. YouTube have demonetized my channel with no...
Okay, yeah, so I kind of feel like I should point out that that is probably a good thing to look at, is that, no, you're probably not going to get the ethot's attention. And, boy, talk about the dog whistles here. Religion of peace, trans women are women, diversity is straight. Holy shit. So, but simping is a symptom of the way society has grown and treats, and the way men are taught to interact with society. It's not an issue of... It's not an issue that these men are weak or somehow worse men or any kind of hyper-toxic bullshit like that. It's that these men are in a bad situation and they seek it through the only means they see they can. Instead of getting help and therapy like they need, probably, they look for validation from people who have authority. And the easiest way to do that is to donate a bunch of money to content creators, streamers, OnlyFans, Patreon, what have you. And some people do that to a healthy degree, some people do it to an unhealthy degree. But when you conflate them all into the same group, you say everyone who donates to an OnlyFans is a simp, then you're lumping a bunch of people who are engaging with it healthfully with people who are not. And that's a bad thing. Stop it, Sargon. I'd say you're smart enough to know different, but we know that. We know better. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you liked it, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you. See you next time.